All right guys, I'm really excited about this one. This is the LMX 64 electric mountain bike. All right, so let me tell you why I'm excited about this particular bike. They did reach out to me to check out their demo unit. I didn't really know anything about them. I was actually really impressed with the amount of information that I found about LMX. From what I understand, this is manufactured, designed, and created by a team from France. They also had a few posts on Endlessphere, which is a website for people who are really into modding and customizing and building stuff. Lots of iteration, lots of research, and probably lots of money to figure out all the components and the technology to create a bike that they actually would like to ride. That's first. Second thing is, just full disclosure, I'm not a mountain bike guy, I'm not a downhill guy, I'm not an enduro rider or anything like that. But I will try to talk about the technology and maybe even get some people who have a little more experience and get their thoughts on camera. So I just want to put that out there right now. If you're expecting me to do backflips or jumps with this thing, probably not going to happen in this video. If you just kind of want a general overview through the streets and maybe some light off-road. So that's what I'm going to cover in this video. Okay, so with that out of the way, first impressions, this thing looks amazing. On first glance, it looks like a regular mountain bike, but then when you start to get into the details, you start to see that there's a lot of components on here that are pretty beefy and definitely meant for some high performance riding. The quality of the components, and we'll get into it as I do the walkthrough, is really, really nice. Very minimal branding. Obviously you have the logo right here, some vinyl graphics on this side and on top of the tube. Now I will say that the price tag might be a little high for most people. I think it's about $7,500 USD, but considering that even the high-end electric mountain bikes are about the same cost, it probably fits in that category. So with that said, let's do a walkthrough of all the features. All right, so here we have 27 by 5-inch trail tires, and this is the tread that you want to use for trails and for off-road stuff. This is probably the best height for this kind of riding and for this bike. Here we have a RockShox front suspension fork, and RockShox is a popular brand with MTB enthusiasts, so this should provide adequate suspension for hard riding. And here's a look at the Formula Cura 4 hydraulic disc brakes, and has a really large 203 millimeter rotor. And Formula is a very reputable brand for MTB guys, and so obviously this will have enough stopping power for this level of performance. Up here we have the MTB style handlebars, and here we have the dropper seat post. This is so you can change the saddle height while you're riding, and the reason that you'd want a dropper seat post is basically when the saddle is lowered, you have the most maneuverability if you're going through trails and stuff. And then by pressing the button, you can raise it. And when you raise the saddle, you get the maximum amount of power, input power from your legs into the pedals. Here we have the display controls, pretty minimalist. You have plus and minus to change the ride settings, menu, and power button. This may be hard to see, but we have a center mounted color LCD display, and then your riding modes over here. Right now it's in neutral, and I said there's 3, so you have 1, 2, 3. We'll get into how these settings work in a second. Here you have an 11-speed shifter, and then a full twist moto throttle. I really like this throttle. It's really small and actually doesn't look like a throttle. It's just looks like a regular grip. As far as power, we have a 52 volt 16.3 amp hour removable battery. The way that this battery sits inside of the frame is really interesting. It looks more like a battery tray than sort of a hollow tube where the battery would sit into, and I'm assuming this is to make removing the battery much quicker, and I'm also assuming to provide the best center of gravity for the battery, since this is usually the thing that has the most weight on a bike like this. So I'm sure the guys at LMX did a lot of experimenting to figure out where the battery should sit. And you also have some see-through panels over here to access the keyhole, the charge indicator. Now here's a look at the 2500 watt brushless mid-drive motor. Now what's interesting about this motor is that it incorporates a dual transmission drivetrain. So there's separate drives for the pedal and then for the throttle. And I'll get into that in a second, but this is really the unique part of this bike, and I think what LMX was really focused on when trying to create a bike with lots of performance. Here's the rear suspension, which is also a RockShox monoshock, and it's adjustable if you need to change the preload. We also have well-go pedals, and then a look at the 11-speed derailleur. All right, so what is the patented LMX dual transmission system? So what that means is this bike incorporates something called a double freewheel transmission. So like I said, this chain on the other side, on the right side, is for pedaling. And then here on the left side with the belt is what drives this rear sprocket over here, and that's connected to the throttle. Having these two independent drives means that there's less wear and tear on the chain when you throttle. So traditional bikes with one drive system, when you pull the throttle for a mid-drive, it's going to pull the chain. So over time, all that pulling on the chain would obviously wear it down. When this thing pulls, it doesn't wear out the same way as a chain. There's no oil that's involved or anything like that. And you also have this giant sprocket over here. So when you activate the throttle, it just gives you tons of torque. To demonstrate this, we could check out the riding modes. So riding mode 1 is pedal assist only. So like the torque sensor will only activate the belt if you're pedaling. You can see, giving a little bit of pedaling will pull the sprocket a little bit. On power level 1, the throttle doesn't engage. Now if we bump it up to power level 2, that's when you get the throttle and you get the belt drive pulling that sprocket. So that gives you all the torque that you need when you're riding on trails. You want to do wheelies, that kind of thing. And then obviously power level 3 will give you the most amount of power. So yeah, plenty of torque. You can see the chain isn't even moving, just the belt. You also have another Cura 4 hydraulic disc brake back here, again with the large rotor. There's also an FOC controller. I don't know which one they're using, but I'm assuming it's hidden somewhere here in the frame. And the total weight of this bike is 64 pounds, which isn't bad. So those are all the features of the LMX 64. I'm really excited to try this out. Again, I'm not a mountain bike guy. I'm not an electric mountain bike guy, enduro guy, or downhill rider. Just take that with a grain of salt. But we will do our parking lot first ride and then maybe take it up some grass or some hills and see how it performs there. And then try to find a trail or some sort of off-road area that we can really, try to put this thing to the test. So now that we've gone over all the features of the LMX 64, let's take it out for its first ride.
The LMX 64 is built around a sturdy 6061 T6 aluminum frame designed to handle the demands of off-road riding. Weighing in at 64 pounds, it's not the lightest bike out there, but the weight is balanced well thanks to its thoughtful design. The bike features a dropper seat post, allowing you to lower the saddle for better maneuverability on technical trails or raise it to maximize power transfer during sprints. The MTB handlebars, 27.5-inch tires, and the RockShox front fork and rear monoshock ensure that the ride is smooth, stable, and capable of tackling a variety of terrain. At the heart of the LMX 64 is a 2,500-watt brushless mid-drive motor, delivering an incredible amount of torque and power. With a 52-volt, 16.3 amp-hour removable battery, the bike offers solid performance, letting you push past 30 miles per hour in unlimited mode. The full twist moto throttle gives you that extra boost when you need it, while the dual transmission drivetrain means the pedal and motor drives are separate, reducing wear on the chain and enhancing the bike's longevity. The 11-speed derailleur ensures smooth and precise shifting, giving you the control you need across various terrain. Comfort is a key aspect of the LMX 64, with high-quality RockShox suspension components that soak up bumps and rough terrain with ease. The bike's Formula Cura 4-piston hydraulic brakes with 203mm rotors provide reliable stopping power, adding to the ride quality. The center-mounted LCD display keeps you informed about battery life, speed, and other key parameters, making it easy to keep track of your ride.
Okay, first ride with the LMX 64. Now, I'm a short rider, about 5'5", so this is a little bit high for me. Obviously, once I get on the seat, it's fine, but with the dropper seat post at its highest setting, basically my legs won't, reach the full pedaling power. So this is probably not going to do much for me. Well, maybe it will. I guess if you're trying to wheelie or something. Yeah, the bike is, 64 pounds, so it's not too heavy. Definitely, you could feel that mid-drive motor weight on the bottom right there. Bike is turned on. We have it on riding mode 1. and we'll just get right into it. Now, I can't sit over the frame, as you can see, and so at a stop, I can just kind of like rest on top of the frame like this. So level 1, there's no throttle engagement, so this is just the torque sensor, and a very natural cadence with the torque sensor. Even with like light pedaling, it feels like just riding like a regular bike. It's not really pushing volts directly into the motor. It feels very calibrated with the way that I'm pedaling right now. So this is a good setting if you're just trying to use this as a regular bike, as a regular mountain bike. See, as I pedal more, it starts to go a little bit faster. Okay, we'll bump it up to power level 2, and now we have the throttle. And yeah, plenty of torque. Wow. So lots of torque right up front, right off the line. Now when you combine the pedaling and the throttle, you just kind of have to figure out where you want to use that. And there's definitely situations where you just want to stand on the pedals as if they were pegs and then just use the throttle to get over the terrain. Or there's certain instances where you want to pedal and not use the throttle. But yeah, it's nice to have those two options for how you like to ride. Just something you probably have to get used to if you're coming from mountain bikes and never rode an electric mountain bike before. Power level 3. Yeah, plenty of torque, plenty of power. So much power. You know, the sprocket is really big on the belt drive, and when I pedal, it feels very natural, and then when I pull the throttle, it feels very natural as well. It doesn't feel like it's tugging the chain. And like I said earlier, because it's not tugging the chain, you're gonna have less wear. All right, now let's test out the brakes. These are the Formula Cura 4 brakes. Now these things are super powerful, so not gonna go too fast, but plenty of stopping power. Very impressive.
All right guys, this is going to be my first ride with the LMX 64. I'm 5'9". You can see I'm sitting on it. The seat's lowered as low as it can go right now. I can flat foot it. My knees are not even bent. Could be ideal for someone that's a little bit taller than me, I think. So I'm just going to start it off in neutral mode, which is no power assist. Take it for a spin. I used to ride a giant Yukon, pretty much about the same size. Feels very similar to that. I'm going to put it on pedal assist level 1 now. And so at this, get a nice gradual assist, nothing crazy. So this will be good for just cruising around town, just getting around the trails, and then bump it up to level 2. Now you can use throttle only. So this pedal assist level 2, but now also the throttle is engaged. No longer have to pedal. It's not lifting the front tire off the ground, but it is a good amount of torque. And then with the pedal assist, it kicks in right away. So I'm gonna bump it up to 3 now. So same kind of thing, you get the torque when you're pedaling. It's like when you're kind of in the middle of pedaling, it doesn't give you so much torque. It does make for a very predictable torque, like you know when it's coming when you're pushing down, just like that. Most certain if you were a stunt rider, this has plenty of torque to get you up in the air to do a wheelie. Not quite as experienced with doing wheelies. I'm sure with some practice you could get it done easily with this.
So even in this parking lot, the LMX 64 is just doing its thing. This parking lot's pretty jacked up, but no issues. We'll take it uphill. Woo! Yeah. Man, yeah, if you're going through trails with this thing, it's perfect. Perfect. This is just like on grass. Can't imagine how this would do like on like a real trail, I think it'd be amazing. Suspension's doing its thing. It's calibrated to my weight. Now, obviously, if you are a more experienced rider, you could probably do wheelies easily on this thing. It's really easy to pop this bike up. As you can see, it's just a little too high for me to feel comfortable with kind of like one leg on the pedal, but it shouldn't be an issue if you are an experienced rider. So my first impressions with the LMX 64 is that it's a very interesting bike. It's going to really depend on if you're coming from light electric motorcycles like a Sur-Ron or something, or if you're coming from a regular mountain bike and maybe you do some downhill stuff. This is a nice sort of like hybrid of both of those worlds, where maybe a Sur-Ron is probably just a little too much for your liking. It's just probably too powerful and attracts too much unwanted attention, and maybe a mountain bike just doesn't have the power that you want to get some thrills, right? So this is kind of like a good in-between. I really love how the controller is calibrated on this bike. It's a FOC controller, and I do love the dual transmission system. Having a separate system for the throttling, especially a belt drive, it just delivers instant torque, and it doesn't make the same noise. It doesn't have the same sort of like tugging motion if it was pulling the chain itself. It's a different feeling. It's a pretty high quality belt and looks to be like some sort of like plastic sprocket over there. So it's pretty good. You know, it's kind of perfect for the weight of this bike. All right, so we found this little trail here, and again, I'm not like a mountain bike trail rider, but I'm gonna try my best. And definitely a bumpy road. It's rocks and obstacles, but the suspension's doing its thing. Not a problem. Again, I'm not going that fast, but the bike is handling this terrain quite well. I'm using a little bit of throttle. I'm on riding mode 2. So just taking it easy. Giving it a little bit more throttle here. Yeah, this thing is super fun. All right, going slightly uphill. And yeah, this thing is just eating up the terrain. So if that's what you want to get this bike for, no problems. Just went up a pretty big log. Again, really, really bumpy, but bike is performing as expected. Now we're getting a little bit of downhill here. We use some brake. Some bumpy terrain. Woo! This is quite a workout. All right, let's go through here. So we're gonna go left because the right path is where the hikers are, and we want to avoid spooking anyone, so go back up here. Man, this thing is fun. Whoa. All right. Yeah, perfect terrain for the LMX 64.
found a ton of mountain bikes out here, dirt jumpers and like downhills and enduros and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, as far as where I would compare it, I don't know, I'd probably put it in something in like the electric enduro category. I like the fact that you can just use the throttle. As far as something like this, with such a tight jump pattern and everything, it's nice to not have to worry about, are my feet in the right place? Do I need to grab a pedal? Where's my foot going to be positioned by the time I fly off the next jump? Because if it's wrong, it's not going to be good. Suspension actually held out a lot better than I thought it would, considering I'm like 215-ish. It's so easy to change the modes with the 1, 2, 3 out of neutral, and then just pedal assist, and then to the throttle itself. They build a lot of these for like BMX 20-inch, you know. It's not really a mountain bike jump park, but yeah, it definitely got the job done.
So here's what we like. The LMX 64 delivers an incredible amount of torque and power, making it ideal for high-performance riding. And the high-quality MTB suspension components contribute to a smooth and controlled ride, even on challenging trails. Finally, the dual transmission drivetrain is a standout feature, reducing wear on the chain and ensuring the bike performs at its best for longer. And here's some things to consider. The frame size and geometry are best suited for taller riders, which might limit its appeal to shorter riders. And while the bike offers 3 riding modes, it would be great to have an option to disable pedal assist for a throttle-only mode, giving riders more flexibility. And finally, at $7,500, the price is steep at first glance, but considering the quality of parts and performance, it's a case of getting what you pay for. Overall, the LMX 64 electric mountain bike is a powerhouse, designed for those who crave high performance and reliability in their off-road adventures. While it may come with a higher price tag and some size limitations, the bike's impressive torque, innovative dual transmission, and high-quality components make it a worthy investment for serious riders. So what do you think of the LMX 64? Is it the E-MTB you've been searching for, or does its price tag make you hesitate? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.